Best known for its Sniper Elite and Zombie Army series, developer Rebellion this time tries its hand at a new, open-world survival adventure, Atomfall. Based on the same in-house engine technology as its other projects, perhaps the most striking aspect of all is Atomfall's setting. The beautiful Lake District area of northern England forms the backdrop to a rather sinister alternate reality. In this version of events, radiation has spread after an accident at a nearby nuclear plant, Windscale, and what at first presents as an idyllic paradise in fact turns out to be a quarantine area, teeming with marauding gangs and mutants. Waking up in a bunker with no name or past, it's up to you to figure out what's happened in the last 5 years. It's a unique setup, and doesn't simply set the stage for Rebellion's well-versed running and gunning. Rather, the multiple pathways, the branching dialogue trees while speaking to NPCs, options for stealth, and investigation are also key parts of its design. It's a welcome jump into new territory for the studio, and perhaps the closest point of comparison is Bethesda's nuclear-themed Fallout series. Having tested PlayStation 5, PS5 Pro, Xbox Series X, and S though, it's also clear that there are rough points in its delivery. Not all aspects of its visuals hold together, especially once its details draw closer. Texture quality, for example, falls flat on current-gen systems, with low-resolution, pixelated mapping used for many surfaces. Screen space reflections are also a distraction, where the SSR technique used on console has large water bodies flicker with player movement. And finally, image quality is lacking due to the game's anti-aliasing method, struggling to address the flicker and noise within each frame. Clearly, Atomfall is built with some scalability in mind to older last-gen consoles like PS4 and Xbox One, but focusing on the current-gen systems for this analysis, how is each platform shaping up in their push for 60 frames per second gameplay? And does the PC version help us break past some of those visual issues seen on console? Let's find out. To kick things off, let's take a look at the native resolutions per machine. PS5 and Series X are a match in pixel counts here, running at between 1440p to 1800p, and with each on par in visual settings too. The other two outlier consoles are much more interesting though. Xbox Series S runs at just 1080p with no variance above or below that figure in my testing. Another major factor for Series S is its halved frame rate, capping at 30 FPS, while screen space reflection quality and tree LODs are also lowered a setting next to Series X. Otherwise, the 4 teraflop machine matches the feature set of the other more expensive consoles, but that drop to 30 FPS is quite a hit to take. Meanwhile, switching to the PlayStation side, there is official PS5 Pro support in Atomfall, manifesting as a resolution boost to a native 4K at peak rather than the 1800p maximum on base PS5. In reality, PS5 Pro still often sits between the 1440p to 4K range. It does not hit a native 4K in most typical scenarios, but having a more powerful GPU in PS5 Pro still results in a higher average pixel count shot for shot compared to the base model. It's a nice bonus and boosts image clarity over PS5. Otherwise, textures, shadows, draw distances are identical between both PS5 systems. The matter of image quality is where Atomfall disappoints overall, no matter which platform you pick. Because, sadly, scaling artifacts are a problem even in the best case on PS5 Pro, where the issue is slightly mitigated by rendering more pixels on average. Anti-aliasing is engaged on all consoles from Xbox Series S right up to PS5 Pro, but pixel crawl is still surprisingly obvious across the frame in action. The lack of a temporal anti-aliasing solution seems to be part of the issue here, because oftentimes player movement produces the most glaring bouts of flicker, notably across swaying grass or brightly lit edges. The upscale from resolutions as low as 1440p on PS5 and Series X isn't doing this any favours as well, and it sticks out massively on Series S at its typical 1080p. Let's look at the PC version fully maxed out for some context next. Even on the top ultra anti-aliasing preset and running at a true native 4K, it's clear that pixel crawl and shimmer are still a problem here. Bizarrely, it appears a post-process anti-aliasing method, likely FXAA or SMAA, is used here, and no alternative option is included in the game's menus either, at least officially. Compared to base PS5 for example, the advantage of the PC version is we're able to render at a permanent fixed 4K with no dynamic scaling, which does help. Even so, the Ultra AA setting is still struggling to address the visually busy, noisy content of Atomfall's world. So much of its scenery is left untreated here. The foliage, the meshes on fences, all suffer, and that's despite the raw frame being something of a best case. No question, it is an improvement on PC, but at an engine level, Atomfall isn't providing enough of a breadth of options to truly clean up the image. There are a few other points worth mentioning while I have the PC loaded. Firstly, we have an ambient occlusion setting which simulates diffuse shading across the ground and in the corners of the environment. Helpfully, the PC menus show the impact of the AO shading in real time, and this is precisely what we get on PS5 and Xbox Series consoles too. Next along, there's the screen space shadows setting a bit further down. On paper, this does admittedly sound similar, except the key difference is that it adds contact shadows across the world as cast by sunlight. Hence, you'll spot extra shadows added beneath rocks and an extra layer under grass too. Thirdly, there's another option that affects shadows at the bottom of the menu called obscurance fields. This is described by Rebellion as ray-traced soft shadows around the player and NPCs, and so it strictly applies to the character models alone and none of the environment details around them. PS5, Series X and S all have parity with PC in offering this obscurance field setting, but the issue is that the combining of all these shading options, screen space shadows, AO and obscurance fields, ends up giving characters this heavy, dark silhouette. It's overkill and at times looks a little bit odd. Thankfully, on PC there is of course some flexibility in how many of these shading techniques you want to layer on, but on console you're locked into this distinctive, heavily shaded look. Moving on, there's the reflection issue. Base PS5 and Series X appear to run at PC's low reflection setting or close to it, which ends up causing visible shimmer as you move nearby. It's pretty glaring, especially for a current gen console release, and happens to be one of the most distracting uses of SSR I've seen in a long time. The good news for PC users is that the ultra reflection setting fixes that shimmer for the most part. We get every setting from low to ultra, but so long as you pick high or above, the issue is put to bed. The only other real issue on console is in their texture quality setting. On PS5, for example, we're getting equivalent to the high preset, which falls shy of the assets possible on PC's ultra setting. It's not a radical difference in truth, but by maxing out the PC version, it again helps to minimize the distraction of seeing certain objects or walls up close. Speaking on performance, there is an upside to playing on PS5, PS5 Pro and Series X in that each runs at their target 60 frames per second. At least, so far, every battle in the open world and rapid sprinting across towns flag zero issues in my testing. That is, with one bizarre exception. On PS5 Pro, in engaging with one marauding gang, performance tanked to the 50 FPS line for a lengthy spell on one occasion. There was really no logical cause for it, and after dying and reviving, this area cleared up again at a smooth 60 FPS. Broadly speaking though, PS5, PS5 Pro and Series X hold up well. More of a frustration is the Series S release. Even with its cutbacks in resolution, we're still lumped with a 30 FPS cap. It's absolutely rock solid at 30 at least, but I have noticed a significant increase in input lag in moving to this V-synced capped 30 FPS output. In switching to and from Series X at 60 FPS, it really does make for a stark difference in input delay, especially while rotating the camera, making it the biggest reason to swerve the Series S version if possible. The turnout for Atomfall is mixed when judged purely by its tech, but it's without doubt a compelling idea. The Lake District setting plays host to a paranoia-fueled adventure, one that forces you to conserve ammo, take the stealthy road, and pick your responses carefully with NPCs. If that appeals, the PS5 and Series X versions put in a solid 60 FPS rendition of the game, even if the textures, reflections, and lacking image quality are rough points. For the most blemish-free take on the game, the PC release obviously offers solutions by running at ultra settings, though maxing out its graphics menu only really does so much. Out of all the available options, Atomfall makes some surprising omissions here, with no modern anti-aliasing options like FSR or DLSS on show. All of this very much points to a cross-gen developed game in this respect, with last-gen machines still very much a focus. With that in mind, it'll be interesting to see if Atomfall will perhaps, down the line, be a good scalable fit for Nintendo's new upcoming console. But that's all from me today. If you did enjoy this video, feel free to like or subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell for instant notifications as any new video lands. To get a high quality version of this video and many more, check out our Patreon at digitalfoundry.net, and to get in touch directly, you know where to find me. But from me for now, thanks for watching.